I'm late to my live stream, but you don't pay for this. So you get those who are subscribed to my channel, you guys know it's always going to be random, but hopefully you will find some nuggets in the discussions. You know, I was catching up on my news feeds and, I heard this story, local story, about a couple of days ago. And I didn't really like, my brain sometimes isn't ready to process, certain news stories. I mean, as sensational as some of the stuff is, I don't want to process it all. I know it. I know that there's a lot of weird, peculiar things going on in the world today. And sometimes it's just like I don't feel it necessary to absorb it all. I think that that's not healthy for the mind. There's very little that we as individuals sometimes really have control over when it comes to somebody else's situation. Um, but I'm thinking about this mother, and she recently lost two of her children because she obviously was homeless, and the two children unfortunately froze to their demise. And I'm thinking about all the people in this car. There were some teenagers in this car. There were two capable grown women, adults. The grandmother, who's 49, was in the car. And none of them had an income source sustainable enough to be able to keep that family from being in that situation. And then you go into the kid's father. And, a lot of people are going in on the father too, because, there's situations like this all the time where you have men and women, they come together, in the spirit of lust, right? They have children, and a lot of times the women are left to figure out what will be the outcome of the children. And it's such a sad situation on so many different levels. But, when I look at this situation, a lot of times it just kind of takes me back to the just a rebellion in human beings. How we have become so anti God that it's not just to our own demise, it's to the demise of the future generations. And I always like to remind people that when I speak, my content is coming from the lens of a prodigal daughter. And if anybody really ascertain the story of the prodigal son, this is a person who was enriched. He had an inheritance, right? And he squandered his father's inheritance, right? So a lot of us, we grow up with just, even if it's just a small foundation of how we ought to live as individuals who claim to be believers of God. And a lot of us rebel against those things, and we have to deal with the consequences of rebelling against God's laws for us as mankind. And so when God says, do not fornicate, right? Right? And when you think about fornication, this is having sexual relations out of wedlock, right? When God says, do not fornicate, right? He's not saying it because he doesn't want you to have a good time. He's not saying it because he doesn't want you to fulfill this desire that is in every human being. He's saying that you need to have control over yourself. You need to have self control. And that self control really goes back to fornication, right? Because there's a lot of reasons these days, and even in human history, why following God's laws is always going to be in our best interest. And so you think about the diseases that are out there today for fornicators. You think about the unwanted financial burdens out there for the fornicators. You think about the guilt that is out there for the fornicators, okay? And I am talking as somebody who used to fornicate. So it's like when we are to freely confess our sins, That it's really to let people know I'm not coming from a holier than thou place when I share my learning curves to you, with you, right? Fornication is the death of people and societies on so many different levels. So now you have these children who are products of fornication, and they lost their lives because unfortunately their mother was not able to sustain them. Their father obviously had no real interest in inconveniencing his life to properly sustain them. And now they're dead. Now they're dead. And I see so many people. I see this mother, and my heart goes out to her. My heart goes out to this woman. What's going on, chat? I see you, AJ. I see you, AJ. I see you. I don't know how to say this other thing, but Ortiz, I see you. You know, I see so many people talking about this story because this woman, obviously she's grieving. You know, she's crying because she lost her kids because nobody would help her. Nobody would help her, right? She obviously looks like an individual who lacks a lot of higher skills to be able to be in an income bracket to sustain the liabilities that she had. And I always say this, and people think I'm weird for saying this, but children are liabilities. They are the only liabilities that we love. They are the only liabilities that can turn into assets if we raise them right. And that's just what it is. And so when we are talking about, thank you, Teddy, when we're talking about the liability of having children, and this is where that abortion argument becomes so legitimate to these eugenist types of unaccountable people on the Democratic side, they're like, it's a financial burden to take care of children. We should not burden these women with having to take care of children that not even the men want them to have, right? And, you know, that argument seems legitimate, right? But it really divorces the other person who created the child or the offspring from their responsibilities. But I feel that this is just a sad, recycled situation. And, you know, I find that there's probably, this situation is not isolated. This is just one that we're seeing in the news, but this is not isolated. This woman, she went to the city for help. And I think it opens up, I think what pisses me off most about this situation is I'm looking at this Black American woman whose children just froze to death. Yet the Democratic Party, who's supposed to care so much about Black women, prioritize funding an influx of people who were not born here. They were not born here. Siphoning programs and available housing for people like this Black American woman, unfortunately. Like, and regardless of your opinions about her lifestyle and what led her to having children unwanted, she has them. And this is not a new story in America or anywhere where women are having children that they didn't intend to have. And even if they did intend, it was okay with having children, they thought that they were with a man that would be responsible to do it with them. And unfortunately, they were wrong, right? Just look at the baby daddy on this one, right? This dude obviously bare minimum cared about those kids. But anyways, you said you can speak any language. That's good for you. And what's going on to the people in India? But this is really, really sad, like I said. And it just really irritates me that this woman was begging for help and there was not a lot of resources available for her 9 times out of 10 because we had so many, we are a sanctuary state. Michigan is a sanctuary state. That means that we have had an influx of migrants in this state since 2020. Why? Because obviously Democrats want to be a sanctuary state because they can siphon a voter base out of those people. They can start changing voting zones and districts when they have an influx of non American people in their districts. So we already saw the strategy with the Democrats. They were trying to maintain their power for a duration of time with just numbers. And they didn't even care if these people were American numbers. So this is so unfortunate. This is so unfortunate. And a lot of people are looking at the mother like, why are you doing all of these press runs, right? You just lost your kids. And you can tell this woman is clearly devastated. Let me go back. This woman is clearly devastated by losing her kids. But what I want to know is she's sitting up there grieving in somebody's house right now. It's like, where was anybody's family? Like, I mean, between the baby daddy, he said, oh, she knows she could have stayed with my family, right? Obviously, that wasn't an option if she's saying, well, some of these people don't want to keep people if they got kids. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that. It's like, I think that at the heart of some of the people that was around this woman, unfortunately, and I think it goes back to, families not being tight and families being, more individually interested than even a family interest, right? Because I don't know how big this woman's family is, but you mean to tell me that nobody was willing? It's cold as hell in Michigan. We are like below freezing. And you mean to tell me that nobody had the empathy enough for this woman and her kids to just let them stay with them? I mean, you think about, like, my house is pretty huge. And I think about how some parts of the house is like this front room area is a little bit colder than like the back room areas. The back rooms are very toasty and cold. But even in this like front room area, I'm like, damn, it's cold. I can't imagine being in a car with no heat, trying to kind of deal with the cold. A baby's body can't sustain that, and yet nobody help this woman in that situation. That is very, very disappointing. It's very sad. But I mean, I think it indicates the selfishness of people. And it's like, I remember a time my sister got in a jam, and I had this little bitty apartment. Her and her dude had got into something. And now, she's over in my apartment with all them kids. It is an inconvenience, right? But in those situations where somebody else, in helping people, sometimes it's not going to be the most conveniencing thing to you. Matter of fact, just the very act of helping people a lot of times involves some level of inconvenience to another person, but they have to be willing to take on that inconvenience, for the greater good of the situation, unfortunately. And I don't know what her family was like, but this is sad. This is really sad. I mean, this is sad. Somebody, I mean, and we all have to be accountable for our own actions, right? This is a single mother, right? And what's sad is that in this situation, you see a cycle of bad behaviors. Because this woman was not just in that car with her kids. Excuse me. She was in the car with her own damn mother. And it's kind of crazy. The girl is, she about to be 30. She's 29 years old. The mom is 49. 49-year-old mama sitting up there in that car. And you got multiple generations sitting up in that car. Now, the girl did say that she was supposed to be starting a job this week, right? So it's not like the woman wasn't willing to work, right? Everybody falls on hard times. They lose their job for whatever reason, right? And they got to get new employment, right? And so she did say that she was looking for another job. She's a CNA, a nursing assistant, right? But a lot of people are saying now that her doing all these news stories is making it look like she's trying to milk the situation. And I guess I have my opinions about that. Like, if I'm homeless, I just lost two children. Um, I'm gonna get all the help I can in this situation. I mean, this is a tragedy. And if there are people who are willing to at least help me avoid this in the future, then I'm gonna get all the help I can. But me personally, I love my children dearly. I really would not be able to talk to people. Okay, I mean, I don't want no news. Like, my process of grief would be, I'd be pissed off if somebody was at my door asking me about losing my kids. I don't want to talk to you. I just want to talk to the Lord and people who really matter at that point, because I'm processing, right? I'm processing, right? And I think a part of her probably doing these press runs is guilt. Guilt. And she keeps, talking about, I begged for help. I tried. I took them to school. I did this. I did that. I was doing everything right, but you didn't have a house for those kids. They did not have a place to lay their head. So everything was not being done right. And that's just the reality of that situation, unfortunately. It's just, you said you have a great perspective on this. I wish more people would have the understanding that you have. Thank you so much, Willie. I mean, you got to be practical about it. There is a human element to this whole unfortunate situation that cannot be avoided. And as much as we can point fingers at the parents, right? I look at people like her as being a product of cycles of bad behaviors, cycles of poverty, right? And when you're talking about the poverty line, that is a different psychology, that is a different set of decision making. And I talk about this all the time. It's beyond other people's comprehension because they don't want to dive into a lot of the psychological factors that, result in situations like these. But it is what it is. But I pray for those people. I pray for those families because, I mean, these babies are freezing to death in these cars, y'all. Just the babies are freezing to death. All right. What's going on, Info Warrior? I haven't seen you in a grip. How are you? How are you? But I don't like the way people, the demons in people do come out and they just start saying stuff. I'm glad that I didn't jump on this story until I saw a little bit more. I saw more of the perspectives coming out. I mean, it really just boils down to, again, God's direction for us is there for a reason. It may seem burdensome to some people, but at the end of the day, it definitely helps you avoid a lot of things. A lot of things. And this is not, to me, people kind of make this about single mothers. And I think that, even though you have these isolated incidences of women in the poverty line, I'm a single woman with kids. I'm a single woman with kids. I've been a single woman with kids for over 19 years now. Well, no, I'm sorry, 17 years. And I'm one of those people that I'm a skilled person, right? I mean, I don't come from an environment where generational bridge cards are being passed along. I come from an environment where we were required to get skills to pay our bills. And we were also taught to pivot. So it's like, if I didn't like my pay, I've always just went back out into the market and got that pay raise that I wanted. I've never stayed at a company and waited for them to increase my pay. because I understand my value and what I can actually offer a company. So I'll go back into the market if inflation is hitting my house a little too much. I'll go back into the market if I feel like I need a pay increase to sustain my children. So it was like every single, I got 3 kids, and every single kid that I had, I knew that I would need to go and acquire more skills, a different set of skills that would put me in a different income bracket to be able to take care of my kids. A lot of people don't think that way. A lot of people aren't trained to think that way, unfortunately. And this is why you have a lot of low skilled single mothers. And unfortunately, they take up with, these low skilled, unserious men who are not in it they're not having sex with you to be your leader, right? They don't care if you get pregnant or not, because they're not going to take care of it. They're going to put all of that on you, right? And it's, again, it takes two to tango, right? So as much as we want to put all of this single motherhood, it's some of these ain't shit men out here just laying seed all over the place, and they're not even taking care of them. Some of these dudes really think that they are Nick Cannon or Future, and I don't even think those brothers can really sustain long term all them damn kids that they done had with all them women. So it's just an interesting thing to think about, when you're talking about, fornication, at least, and kind of all the scenarios that fornication leads us. you know it's just sometimes it's like you get back and you step back and you're like, dang, God was right. God was right. So, anyways, let me know what you guys think about that. There was something else on my radar. Apparently, and it's so funny because I said this before. It was AOC popped on my radar. Apparently, she's giving illegal migrants tutorials on how to evade or avoid getting detained by ICE. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, how is a person who's sitting in Congress allowed to utilize social platforms to instruct illegal people how to usurp the United States legal process? Like, can somebody explain to me why AOC is not up for impeachment of some sort, or at least under investigation for doing something like that? And this is the problem. And I've said this before, and I always go back to the Roman Empire, because for America, Rome is the best case study. You get all these people who you open your borders to, and then you weave these people into your government, right? And this go for Elon's ass too, right? You weave all these foreigners, immigrants, into your government, and they're not worried about the best interests of your country, right? They're worried about the country that they came from, right? Instead of, Elon focused on Doge and figuring out where we can cut spending, right? He's got his little mouth all on South Africa, and and proposing stuff that the United States should do to bring those Afrikaners over here because they're refugees. So it's interesting. Like I said, when you have all of these foreigners, these immigrants in your government, right? You will fall like Rome. The United States is going to fall like Rome. Mark my words, and it will be in my generation. And people will say, you're not being very patriotic. Hey, the writing is on the wall for this nation. It really is. There are way too many liabilities that have been woven into the fabrics of the government for us to be anywhere but at the point of no return. So AOC is helping out her homies, right? She's not worried about the U.S. law. She's not worried about the U.S. economies. She's worried about how we can sustain and keep these illegal human liabilities. And she's helping them like she is some modern day Harriet Tubman avoid getting through the underground railroad or avoiding ice. These people make me sick. They make me sick. They're so anti-American, and yet these somehow Americans are fooled into continuously re-electing these traitors. All right, let me get to the chat, you guys. Hang on for 1 second. And shout out to you, InfoWare. I did a late night chat last night, and I was like, my moderators are so awesome, but I cannot have them beholden to my random chat times because I'm just way too random. But I missed you, man. I hope you're doing good. I hope you are doing well. Peace and good vibes to you, my friend. Okay, how do I get that? But let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think the United States got too many foreigners in their government who don't really have a firm U.S. interest? I've been thinking about that lately because this nation reminds me of Rome so much. We got a lot of non-foundational people in our government running things, making decisions. And honestly, people talk about the foundational Black Americans. I'm talking about the foundational white Americans too, right? Y'all not really dominating like you did up in these spaces either, in so many different degrees. And you got people that look like you, but they don't have the U.S. interests either. So very interesting what's going on in the United States. We shall see what happens. Liberal media, they're going nuts. Apparently, some farmers are FAFO. I do look at the liberal side of arguments just to see kind of what they're talking about. And apparently, I want to get to this video. Some U.S. farmers are very upset right now because I guess a subsidy that was in the Inflation Reduction Act is now being taken away because it's part of the USAID. And these people are talking about how their farms might go under because the USAID is cutting the program. So let's go here. I want to go, hang on for 1 second. And if you're a U.S. farmer, let me know if this is just liberal fervor or if, here we go. So here we go. They're saying Trump farmers, FAFOS, their funding is cut off. Right liner for black. All right, we don't do endorsements. All right, so let's see. What are they FAFOing about?
I don't know if y'all are on Farm Talk like I am, but did y'all see the video of that young farmer, Skylar, who voted for Trump and now is in danger of losing his family farm because Trump is going to enact the policies that he promised to enact. And Skylar and his family farm are getting screwed in the process. If you haven't seen it, he's made a few videos because he got pretty defensive when folks in the comments on his first video were like, fuck around and find out, oh, isn't this what you voted for? Did you not research the candidate and his policies before you decided to vote for him? I believe for the third time. This is the third time he's voted for Trump.
Serve any help? I hope you lose your farm. How much you selling it for? All those comments, that's super helpful. You think that you're not helping, you think that it's funny, but you commenting boosts the post, and I'm getting more views, therefore it is helping me.
Is it saving your farm?
It's kind of a double-edged sword there. You think you're getting your point across, but in reality, you're actually helping me. But
really?
I wanted to start off by saying I did vote for Donald Trump.
3 times.
Just because I voted for Donald Trump doesn't mean I believe in everything that he stands for. And that everybody has to understand that. Just because you vote one way doesn't mean you agree with everything that that party stands for.
Now, I'm a big proponent of supporting small family farms, supporting local sustainable agriculture. But son, I am struggling to have sympathy for you, a cishet white dude who owns a farm in Missouri, for voting for Donald
Okay,
Trump.
I see. As soon as she said a cis out white dude, I couldn't take anything else that she said seriously, right? I don't take anybody who refers to heterosexual people, biological men and women, as a cis. No, we're not cis. Some of you guys are cis and cancers.
Trump. You are the demographic that deserves to feel the pinch, deserves to feel the consequences of your actions. The folks who are going to suffer the most, as I have said, the folks who are at risk of losing their lives.
Okay, is there another FAFO person besides her? I can't, like, when they start saying sis, it's like, you're not credible. Did they just dedicate this whole one to her? Okay, let's see what this dude got to say. He probably gonna say some sis shit
Of
too.
farmers who might lose their farms because the government is reneging on contracts they wrote with these farmers. Hi guys, my name's Will, your favorite rural campaign and elections expert, and let's talk about it. Now the problem is President Trump's order to freeze most federal grants and loans has created a panic and uncertainty within the agricultural sector, which relies on billions of dollars in direct government assistance for loans, disaster relief, and conservation practices, many of which have been around since the days of FDR, and farmers have begun to rely on them. Now, if you've watched the news at all, you know that a federal judge blocked the order on Tuesday. The problem is, and what the media isn't telling you, is that farmers and ranchers over the last week to 10 days have begun to receive letters telling them that the government may not be able to live up to the promises they made in these signed contracts with farmers and ranchers to improve conservation and increase productivity on the farm. Sadly, I watched one cattle farmer video last night in the state of Missouri where he said that he's going to fall $80,000 short in funding because the government promised him that if he and his family invested in good conservation practices, they would support his efforts with grants and loans. He received a letter in the past 10 days telling him that they couldn't keep their promise even though they have a signed contract. And as a direct result, he's going to fall $80,000 short on his spring loan payment. And the only option he has right now is to sell his cattle. And he needs those cattle because those cattle are going to have calves, and he needs those calves to
Okay, so I guess I'm wondering, any Trump supporters in the House that are farmers who are dealing with this?
Of rural farm news in America, you need to follow Will. I agree with everything he's saying, except I disagree. I disagree that it's not the fault of the farmers who voted for this. Y'all didn't want socialism. Guess what subsidies for farmers are? Y'all wanted to gut wasteful spending. Y'all didn't want environmental protections. Guess where that grant money comes from for improvements to your farm that help reduce erosion, reduce runoff, improve the environment? You just handed over the keys to the kingdom to Elon Musk to gut the shit out of all of that stuff. And as I said before, this is not a time to be defensive. This is a time to say, we need to save our farms. This is a time to say, we screwed up. We should not have voted for Trump. And we definitely did not vote for Elon Musk.
Okay. What do you guys think? I will say this. This is like the second thing. You know, this is like the second major FAFO that the liberals are basking in when it comes to Trump supporters that I've seen, where, you know, I couldn't really say if, you know, this cut of spending, or I guess reneging on the promises by the government, it's not surprising to me. But, I mean, I would suspect that Trump seems like he would be someone that is very much in favor of white farmers succeeding, or farmers in general succeeding. You know, you have RFK, who's kind of pushing more healthy, holistic types of ways of being. So I can't imagine that any of Trump's plans would impact the agriculture sector long term. Um, who knows? I mean, because it's like, it really is like these politicians, they politic to you, and then when they get into office, they do something totally different. I mean, and I can see this with even Trump playing out, right? I mean, even now, and I want to emphasize too that CBO video that I did in terms of the veterans benefits cut, right? That was a proposal that was before the Trump administration even got in. So I'm just curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, apparently, I mean, they're going to dismantle the Green New Deal, right? They are going to probably cut back on some of the just ridiculous stuff that was probably woven into that. But I hope that they don't do anything that kind of hurts U.S. agriculture, because that'd be dumb, especially if Trump is running around talking about tariffs all over the place. We really need to make sure that our production sectors across sectors are on point, right? You cannot be touting tariffs all over the damn place, and then you're going to hurt the agriculture sector or major sectors that, sustain, American society. So let's see what happens. What's going on, Linda? I see you. We're just talking about our random stuff going on. It's Monday, it's President's Day, and I don't have to work today. Yay. But let's see how Trump plays out, because again, I always remind people there is the politics that these people out here saying to get you to vote for them, and then it's the policies. And again, with that gentleman said before, what did he say? Let me go back to that post that I did. He said, Trump is selling people, the American downfall in a shiny way. That's what he claims Trump was doing, is selling the American downfall to people, the inevitable downfall of America in a very, here it is. He said Trump is overseeing the downfall of America. And I went through this video before. I went through this video before.
Spread around the world.
Oh no. I wish I could stop seeing these videos from this guy.
Well, I think that the useful thing about Trump is
Remember
that
this guy?
he can package the dismantling of American empire as the building of American empire. That's what he's doing. Because you have to sell to your demographic. And Americans are not the most mature, the most realistic, the most responsible people in the world, the most well acquainted with history and so forth. So you cannot possibly sell America's necessary downsizing and the managed erosion of America and the hollowing out of America. As you know, we've made a lot of bad choices for a very long time. We've only ever really made short-term plans for the future. So it turns out that there's a lot of unavoidable, necessary changes that have to be made at your expense. You can't really sell that to the American public. You can't tell the American public that consequences are a thing. That demographic of political consumers simply cannot compute a message like that. Because look, what Trump is going to do, what he is doing, and what he will do, these are all things that were going to happen anyway, with or without him. He's just the one who's selling it to you as a good thing. That's his job. He's like the guy at a company who's designated as the one to deliver the bad news to you that you're going to be let go. And you designate him for that job because he has a way of presenting it to you. He has a way of presenting to you being fired as the greatest opportunity of your life,
So I'm kind of marking this guy's words a little bit. And like I said, I got my conspiracy theorist hat on throughout the Trump administration, because I'm going to be looking at how he's being set up to fail. But I'm also going to be looking at just how he executes. I will say that Donald Trump is a little wild, wild west right now. I think that he's buying into too much of the wrong type of hype. I think that he's leveraging tariffs in a reckless way. And ultimately, we will see long term how it pans out for us. So check out, Elon Musk cuts in the USAID. Let me know what your thoughts are. How you doing, Angela? Let me know what your thoughts are on this farmer in Missouri. I believe his name is Skylar. Skylar went viral because he's talking about how the cuts in the USAID is going to impact this farm. And I think that he's going to be $80,000 down. He's going to have to sell some cattle, right, in order to just be able to stay afloat, because the government supposedly is reneging on their contractual obligation to help fund these farms. So he's a Trump supporter. He voted for Trump 3 times. And again, when these politicians say, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that, right? The question is, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? So maybe Trump has something, in mind that is different than what the Democrats had in place in terms of funding for the agricultural sector. We don't know, but I mean, if you're in that sector, obviously you're going to be watching to see how this stuff plays out in terms of funding, right? And then I mean, there's the question also about the investments. A lot of these people upgraded certain areas or aspects of their farms to meet some type of government, requirement for green funding, right? So how do they get reimbursed for those investments if the government is going to renege on actually funding them the greens? That is pretty sad. What a freaking mess. I agree with you. It's a mess. It is such a mess, and I feel bad for those. It's all billionaires helping billionaires. They need to properly start taxing billionaires and big companies. They're all getting away with tax evasion, and everyone knows it. Or they're just trickling down their tax liabilities to us in some little creative way. But save the farmers. We need them. We need farmers. Like, we keep eating this disgusting mass-produced food that is further and further away from its natural state, right? So it's horrible for our bodies because they're putting all of these chemicals and preservatives in the food, right? I envy farmers. I just want my 40 acres and a mule, right? So I can just get off the grid and just say, leave me the hell alone. Me and my people, we will figure it out. Just leave us the hell alone, right? That's what I would really love to do. I wish the government would just leave people the hell alone, right? And just let them till their land and produce and sell, engage in commerce without all these stupid rules and everything like that. You said save the farmers. Indeed, I'm becoming a farmer, Angela. I hopefully, when I buy my homestead, I can find one. I can buy one near you, and we can just have coffee and talk shit about the world all day. But it's just, come on, like, just leave people alone. I think if you just leave humans to their natural state in nature, mental health in societies would be so much better, right? Just leave people alone. Stop setting up systems of control and just let people be. And they will be, right? And the problem with the societies and why we need some level of law and order really boils down to who's willing to work. Who's willing to learn how to fish versus being fed the fish every day, right? And this is really what we need to, kind of tighten up in American society is, how do we train the people who consistently want to be fed fish how to just fish for their damn selves, right? What did they say? Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. We're not really teaching people how to fish in America that good. As a matter of fact, we foster a distracted society, right? So people can't even get to the point of owning land or anything. And because the government isn't going to give a reparations out, so we should all just work for what we want and hope that they don't short squeeze us out of it in the process. So, yep, that's what I'm saying. Find a tribe of people and just exist. Start your own little society. You know, try to find some federal free land that's by a water source and just tell the government to leave you the hell alone like the Native Americans. That's why I'm like, I want to be like the Native Americans. They and the indigenous people, they actually really do got it right in the broad scheme of everything. Um, but they need us intertwined with the system so that they can short squeeze us out of our labor because we're all slaves at the end of the day. Attention, why are you people so obsessed with Diddy? Talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Talk about some of these other disgusting people that are protected by the Mossad. Y'all always want to talk about the black man. Let's talk about the Mossad people that are knee deep. They taught Diddy. Let's talk about the ones that taught Diddy. Since y'all want to come up in my live stream talking about the black man pedophile, let's talk about the white men that taught him how to be a pedophile. Those type of folks, the Moloch worshipers, those from the synagogue of Satan that be teaching these brothers how to sell their souls and then get into a Ponzi scheme of teaching other brothers how to sell their souls for the almighty dollar. Let's talk about them folks. I hate it when people just randomly come up in here saying shit like Diddy. Ain't nobody even talking about Diddy. Some of y'all are obsessed with Diddy. Okay, let me mute this so I can look at this chat because here we go. What somebody did. Let me go ahead and get you out of there because you just coming up in here saying shit. Lord. It's like, who raised some of y'all? It's like your parents need to be slapped. Send them to the Gestapo for such products in societies. You know, I be thinking about what kind of queen would I be? What kind of leader would I be? I guess it would be kind of a totalitarian society because I'm like ignorant people. It's like, send them to the education camps. You're useless in society. We need to get you more useful. We don't want you out of society. We just need you a little bit more useful. So we need you to go to the education center. You're going to be a carpenter. You're going to be an electrician. You're going to be something, but you're not going to be a useless idiot, right? That's my mindset, you know? That's the kind of tyrant I would be. It's like, your ass is going to the camp to get a skill to help you pay your bills and be productive in our little society. And, you know, if you are a PDF file, right, understand that that is automatic destruction for you. There is no civil society that has room for pedophiles, but yet we know that America has room for them, so America isn't a very civilized society. We're not as civilized as people want to think that we are because we are like the number one nation that enables grown adults harming children, sometimes in rituals to enrich themselves. We enable that stuff. It's underground. We're not supposed to know about these things, but these people do that shit because America is the nation that the devil sits in. Just remember, you know, when you're talking about the Prince of Persia, right? What is it? Daniel chapter 10, verse 6, where the angel, he's like, sorry, Daniel, I was a little bit late. I was detained by the Prince of Persia, right? And a lot of people read that scripture and they're like, how was Daniel or an angel of God, you know, held up by a man? And then you realize that the Prince of Persia was actually the demon that was assigned or that was ruling in the nation of Persia. You know, so This is why I always tell people open up the book of Enoch, right? It's technically in my world, it's the first book of the Bible, because you will get so much more perspective of the conflicts, not just of man, but of these spiritual sons as well. And they still manifest themselves among men. Any conflicts that we are having among ourselves, they are having among themselves. And I think it's also notable for people to understand that when you're talking about legions of fallen angels, do not assume that those legions of fallen angels are actually in one accord. Matter of fact, I think that when you're talking about a third of the angels that have fallen, I think since that point, it's probably much less evil on this earth, because I have no doubt that they've been killing them each other. I think that they've been killing each others over the millenniums. And so when you see these nations rise and prosper, or dynasties rise and prosper and then they fall, right? I truly do believe that that is one of those fallens who have taken out another. So I don't really, when I think about the armies of the evil, like the fallen angels these days, I don't think those armies are as big as we would think that they are from the time that they fell. I think that they've been killing each other, right? But the armies of the fallen, in terms of fleshly men, that has grown. They have a chokehold on humanity, and we can tell how the fallen angels have a chokehold on humanity, because look at what humanity is capable of doing to each other. So y'all know I go deep in the scripture. I'm going to tie it all in together, okay? I look at the social, the political landscapes, and I always going to tie it back into the Bible prophecies. I'm always going to tie it back into what the word has said, because again, what? There is nothing new under the sun, humans. There is nothing new under the sun. There will never be nothing new under the sun. Matter of fact, we're going to find the same human behaviors as today, the same inclinations as today, the same political motivations, sliminess as today. We're going to find that 100 years from now. We're going to find it 200 years from now. It'll probably be substantially worse, because the inclinations of man, it does not get better. It goes from bad to worse. And that's why judgment is going to be upon the nations. I know people don't want to hear stuff like that. What do you think Noah was going through, right? Noah built that ark in 7 years, all right? He built the ark in 7 years. But him and Methuselah, they had 120 years to convince the humans on this earth that a deluge was going to come and subdue them, wipe away their weaknesses. And they didn't believe him. They was like, man, what are you talking about? Like, stop talking all that mystical stuff, right? All the while, they knew something was going to be going down, because you have freaking dinosaurs and giants on the earth that was wiping them out just as much, as anything else. So they already knew it was going to get busy on the earth, right? But they did not want to listen to Noah. They didn't want to listen to Noah. And the reason why Methuselah did not make it into the ark, and Enoch was very clear about why God did not want Methuselah to enter the ark with Noah, because Methuselah was the oldest person on earth at that time. So all of those generations that were being wiped out by the flood, right? Those were his cousins. Those were his people, right? And God had mercy on that man. He was like, we're going to take Methuselah out the game before the deluge comes. So Methuselah went to sleep in death before Noah even entered into the ark. So that's how we got just Noah and his family. But that is just to say, y'all, that, this world is the great day of our Lord is just gonna be like that, where people are not gonna believe the prophets, they're not gonna believe God's disciples because they're gonna be too far into this system of things. You think about how many of these so-called believers, they do not want to see this world end. They don't want to think that I've worked hard and God has blessed me with all of these earthly things, right? They don't want to think about those things being destroyed because they have the spirit of Lot's wife. Why do you think Lot's wife met her demise, right? Because she was longing for those things in Sodom and Gomorrah. She did not want to see them go. And so she had to go. But I pray for everybody. Like I said, open up your Bible. Understand the timeline of man. Understand Daniel's prophecy. Understand John's prophecy. And understand that statue, that iron, those iron feet, right? That was Rome. That was Rome. And so that the legs of that statue, that was Rome. The feet mixed with iron and clay, these are all of these broken Anglo-Saxon, Jute, dual world powers that are just struggling for power, and ultimately they are going to destroy each other. So watch out for the kings of the East, all right? Watch out for the kings of the East, you kings of the West, right? Because just like in the old days, it was the God of Abraham that put it into their hearts to move on some of those other kingdoms. So a lot of times people don't think God is in control, but God is in control. God is in control. And I will promise you one thing. I can almost guarantee this. These nations are not as tight as they say that they are. They are not as cohesive as they say that they are. The current global climate today is comprised of a bunch of global leaders that do not trust each other, that can be bought out to turn on each other. And this is how you will see the chaos of the future kind of play out. They don't trust each other. There's a lot of snake shit going on. And these people in the cabal, they know that, but they don't realize how much they're playing into Bible prophecy. So God is in control. God is in control. Okay? He is never slow respecting his promise. He is never slow. We are impatient, right? We think that God should have been destroyed this. And I felt that way too. Just set it on fire, God. But we will never understand his mercy. He really don't want the world to be destroyed. He really don't want people to be destroyed. He would like for people to be saved and attain repentance. But I think he's shown us in the past how not getting to that point works out for overall humanity, because he'll wipe us all out in a flood, and this time he coming with the fire. So I ain't trying to be destroyed by the fire, y'all. So keep your prayers up, y'all. Live right. Be good people. Don't be out here doing things that are anti-God, No, we can't be on board with all these anti-God mindsets and movements, right? We can't be on board with that. We have to be separate from those things, right? So if God says that a man that lies with another man as he would a woman is something detestable to God, we need to believe him. We need to believe him. And not only is this detestable because of the bloodlines, it's not only detestable because of the bloodline. Anybody who really understands just the physics of things will know that sodomy is very unhealthy. Sodomy is very unhealthy. When you want to really boil down male homosexuality, it's not healthy. It's not only the most disgusting sex one could have, but it's one of the most dangerous sex, because the ass ain't meant to be like that. It's not meant to stretch like that. It's not a vagina. So these sodomites, right, they cause their own issues. A lot of them have no ass lining at all. So many of them are just crapping on themselves. Sodomy becomes a very disgusting thing after a while. No matter how much they want to glorify it, it is disgusting. It's unhealthy. A lot of these people have to go and get their lining redid or something, right? Because that's not what that part of your body is for. So there's that. Being anti-God does not work out for so many people in so many different ways. It just don't. The devil is such a liar because he'll have people buying into these little lifestyles, right? Half of them don't even understand what they doing, they just on a trend, right? And the devil will have them out there just destroying themselves, their dignity, little by little. And then they want society to help them or coddle them through their shame. That's what a lot of these people too do. It's like they do all this disgusting trend stuff, and then they need society to coddle them through their shame. No, it's like, no, you need your shame. You need to sit in your shame, and you need to repent, especially if you were somebody who claimed that you were of God. But excuse me, I've been on here long enough. Big ups to my beautiful Rose Garden, my girl Angela. I see you, beautiful. And I haven't seen you in a minute, Angela. So it's always good to see you, beautiful. Matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, I was looking through the chat and I saw you were there. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't see Angela. And I don't give shout outs to anybody on this channel, but people that ride with this channel and they've been with this channel from like the beginning, right? They understand how I think. They're not coming up here feeling, compelled to be offended by everything that is being said, right? These are people who are like me. We're truth seekers and we just talking out some things. So I love the people who engage. And this is not a huge channel. I really don't want it to be like a huge channel because I feel like we will lose our love. We will lose our tribe if we just start having just everybody there. It's like, I love my people who rock with me organically. So I appreciate you all. And we will be back. Good afternoon. I see you. Catch my live stream last night because I was talking about the Super Bowl a little bit more. Apparently the NFL came out supposedly apologizing for the mismatch of having Kendrick Lamar perform versus Lil Wayne. And again, the overarching thing with that is Lil Wayne can cross cultural groups. Kendrick Lamar, he's very segmented to a very conscious segment of people, right? If you're not a person who's very conscious, you're not really going to get the art form that Kendrick Lamar puts out. And, so that wasn't really the performance or the exhibition for that particular crowd because the Super Bowl crowd isn't a bunch of conscious people. So, if they want to go back and apologize for the mismatch and essentially be apologizing to unconscious segments of white America that just can't get shit, let them do what they do, right? But I think for the conscious whites who saw that, they were just like, wow, that was pretty artistic. Actually got something out of that, right? They were able to be intelligent about the performance and they were able to get something that was perspective out of it. So kudos to our brothers and sisters in America who actually can use their brain and look at art and have conversation and think outside of their feelings. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening, and I will catch you on. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next one. I got to go down there and see what my son is doing, because when I hear boom, bow, pow, it's like bodies, it's dropping, it's like, got to see what's going on down there. So you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye. What are you doing?